cannot be reactive.
Yeah.
You need to be proactive. I want with my company, and that's the target, I want to be there. So what are the steps I need to take to get there? Together with our partners, we basically look into what's going on the market. We actually scan the market in terms of what patents have been filed, what research has been done, what is going on in the markets, and it draws us a clear picture. Yeah, how could we actually start this, and what do we want to test? What we want to test is the process.
Yeah.
Can we actually set it up in a way that it runs completely automated?
You are connected to the Evolving Digital Podcast.
Hi, I'm Adam Butler, and this is Evolving Digital. We're here to pull back the curtains and share the secrets of digital giants and disruptors. We'll be bringing you high-quality, in-depth interviews, and all we ask of you is that you hit that subscribe button so we can keep doing this. Now let's jump into it.
I'm here with Martin Schneider. Welcome.
Hello.
Prior to this week, I'd never met you before, but I'd heard a lot about you. You were called the digital cowboy. Someone even mentioned you were his AI alter ego. That's someone we both know, so you know who I mean. And you're one of the Trim long-standing partners. And what I took from our initial conversation this week was focus on what needs to change.
Yeah, that's a good introduction, yeah.
Yeah. So can you explain that motto?
Yeah, I think what I come across very often is basically that a lot of companies focus on only the things that they think they need to do, but there are a lot of things that they don't look at. Like, for example, things where they say there's a status quo. I don't need to question the status quo. I only need to justify if I want to transform. I want to do a new project, so I need to actually justify this. But we tend to not questioning the status quo and see if that even needs to be object for change in the end.
Yeah. Is that your life's motto as well?
Well, more or less. Not always. I mean, of course, practice what you preach, I would say. But I think it's frequently I also look into, okay, what can I do better? What can I change? And I'm someone who is always curious. So if something is very, let's say same old, that's not for me. So I always,
you need a challenge, something new.
Something exciting, yeah.
Yeah, something exciting. So what excites you?
Traveling, definitely. Exploring new hobbies, doing things where I'm currently not in the stage of doing it. So actually, I just signed up yesterday. A friend asked me already last year to go for an ultra run somewhere in Switzerland.
Which one?
It's called
Eiger?
E35. Yeah, that's the one.
The Eiger?
Yeah.
Which? Oh, nice. Which one are you going to do? The 101?
I think it's called the E35 or something like this. So it's, I think, 30 or E50. I don't know. They have weird names. Not a good front end, by the way. So I think it's like 35 kilometers and it's like 2,500 meters of height.
Awesome.
So you have 9 hours to complete it. And he asked me already last year, and I'm like, last year was able to do it. And then I said, okay, let's go for it. It's 6 months. I'm running anyway. Yeah. So, but I was like, currently I would not be capable of doing it. So I need that target and then actually work myself towards it.
I can relate to that. I just did my first ultra marathon 2 months ago.
Oh, see.
Yeah, around Arnhem. So I know what you're talking about.
I was already curious when you say, this one. I'm like, okay.
She knows, yeah. One of our colleagues actually finished 101 kilometers in Eiger.
Holy, how is he?
He's doing fine. That was 3 years ago already. So he's doing fine, yeah. But he called it Project Moonshot.
I haven't thought about it, but they might have come up with a name for that one then. Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah.
So did you also ask yourself, so why should I do that and why not? The other phrase that kind of...
Yeah, I think it's a mix of like, what means fear of missing out, because I'm pretty sure, my friends that all said, let's go for it, they're going to have a good time. I did similar things before. And in the beginning I was also like, oh, geez, that's going to be... But the moment you're in it, you're just like, I should be here. This is what I love. This is awesome. And so I think not doing it is like, I mean, that's I always imagine myself, you're a grandpa or whatever, and you look back, and then this opportunity came up, and then your grandpa decided not to do it. End of story.
And you're sorry after, yeah.
I don't see myself there. So I think, I'd rather try it and fail than not even trying.
Yeah. And if you relate that again to any transformation, whether it's a digital transformation or a transformation that you need to do for an ultra, it's a process, it's a journey.
Yeah.
I think that's also fairly similar to looking at it.
Yeah, exactly. And then it starts somewhat with the target, right? So I think that also if you look into transformation, I would not just wake up in the morning and say, let's transform. That there's either there's a need or there's a want. Most companies start with there's a need.
Yeah.
We need to transform. We're not competitive enough anymore, and whatsoever. It's very reactive, right? Especially if you're a company and you want to be leading, you cannot be reactive.
Yeah.
You need to be proactive. I want with my company, and that's the target, I want to be there. So what are the steps I need to take to get there? And what can I do already now? And that also involves exploring, that involves failing.
Yeah.
Again, right, it could also be that next year when I do the run, that I'm somewhere in the mountain stuck and my leg hurts and I'm like, I cannot do it anymore.
Yeah.
But at least I tried.
Yeah.
But if I never go there, I never find out. And I think that is this if you're a company that wants to lead, you need to be proactive. And the same also counts for transformation, which is often seen as a burden. And I think what is often underestimated is that transformation is not a project. It used to be 10 years ago, maybe we need to change the ERP system, but with the speed of the change that is currently happening, you can either accept the change or you be the change yourself. And I think that is where a lot of companies are struggling and see it as a project, but it needs to be culture. As for me, constantly looking for new stuff, how I can challenge myself, whatever. As a company, it needs to be your culture. You need to empower and motivate the people in your organization to drive transformation. It's not one department that takes care of it. That's not how it's supposed to be.
Yeah, it's a journey, it's a transformation, it's a process, it's a mindset.
Yeah.
And that's why you founded 10Ops. For people who don't know 10Ops, in brief, what is 10Ops?
Yeah, 10Ops, it's a company that I founded together with Tim Vorage.
Mm-hmm.
We both founder managing partners. And it's actually, in the last years where we worked together on multiple projects, we realized that we both have this, let's call it entrepreneurial spirit.
Yeah.
So I'm invested in some companies with some business partners and always like to explore new stuff. I think, you see a certain pattern there. And Tim and me, we think pretty much alike on that one. And also we love strategy, but it needs to be pragmatic.
Yeah.
I think often strategy is being seen as something that like, we have this 5-year plan. And then you're like, okay, what now? What can we do today? What can we do tomorrow? And how can we actually prove that this is the right strategy? And that is where 10Ops comes in. So basically, it's the opportunity company. We turn opportunities into operations. So that means together with our partners, we basically look into what's going on the market. We actually scan the market in terms of what patents have been filed, what research has been done, what is going on in the markets, and it draws us a clear picture, which we use as a basis. And then we explore opportunities. We also look into sales data of organizations. We look into processes. And then we see, okay, where there are opportunities to do things different, do things better, or would it even make sense to do something completely else or add something or partner up with this company, found a venture, find a startup to go into another market. And then we basically build operations that you can put into practice. Yeah. And then with the partners together, we basically start implementing.
Yeah. And you have a proven process for that as well. So it's not just digital transformation, but any transformation? Let me start with that question first.
Any transformation, yes. But I think that's also where organizations fail. So traditionally, if you do consulting, you go into an organization, you say, this is wrong, here's your report, good luck with it, right? Yeah. But then 2 years down the road, you will be at the same point because the organization has not changed. What we do is we basically execute this together with partners, but also the organization.
Yeah.
We hand over to the organization, we train the organization, because if we do our job right, they might call us again, but for other stuff.
Yeah.
But not for the same thing again. And that is really where we want to embrace change also in the organization, together with the partners.
Yeah. And is that basically, you guys met at Mitsubishi. Is that also what you did together at Mitsubishi?
Partially. So I think we both had our regular duties. But at some point, there was a workshop about talking about new ideas and strategies, and there were some given topics that we talked about that needed to be explored, but it triggered something. And then I dropped him a message. I said, hey, this is in your department. Yes. did you think about this? Yeah, but what's about this? And then we started to talk, and then we started some projects out of this, and they were very successful, and it was really nice. And we kept on exchanging on ideas and concepts. And then at some point, because I also had some ideas, I said to him, I want to challenge them with you. And Tim said, I also have something to talk
Challenging
with.
the status quo again.
Exactly.
There
And he
you
said, I
go.
also have something I want to check with you.
I get why they call you the cowboy. Yeah.
Shoot first and ask questions.
Yes.
And then we sat down for like a couple of hours, and then we realized, hey, that we might be onto something here.
Yeah. And can you share a little bit about the things that you did for Mitsubishi as well?
Yeah, I think we one example, I think that's also an interesting project is where we said, let's launch a web shop that's not about selling. And that is typically...
That in itself. Let's launch a web shop
Exactly.
that's not about selling.
Yeah, it's not a good business plan, I can tell you that. No, but what it's actually about is that you, it's very untypical, right? You always think about a web shop, it needs to have a high conversion, whatever, but it can be strategically. It can be to say we want to explore a certain market, we want to go into a certain area. And Mitsubishi has the open innovation platform, and work a lot with startups and scale-ups.
Yeah.
And they always want to have branded materials. And also the Mitsubishi brand is very well known in the industry, seen as quality, but they don't have access to it. So what you typically do is you do like engineering challenges, where you say, look, you get a certain amount of materials worth X, Y, Z if you win the challenge. And as a return, you get insights into new application areas or whatsoever. But then what is with the startups and scale-ups that do not win?
Yeah.
So and then we said, why don't we offer them the possibility to buy from us low quantities? We keep it to a certain level. So we say it's only this amount, so we can also plan it into the processes and whatever, because of course that's, it's not typically the sizes that Mitsubishi does. And then basically to get in touch with them and have interesting startups and scale-ups that you can engage with, you also build up a community, and that was quite something to digest for some. And we also did some other parts, and also the customer portal project we did, which per se is something that has been done 20,000 times, right? But connecting this to business to see where opportunity costs, where can we maybe even have, I call it digital ties with customers, connecting systems, and you actually create a complete different relationship also with your commercial partners.
Yeah.
So it's always about these things, exploring new opportunities in existing programs or completely new opportunities.
Yeah. And you just mentioned briefly opportunity costs. For those who have no idea, can you elaborate? What is an opportunity cost, or what are opportunity costs?
Yeah, so opportunity costs are basically, let's imagine you say, I'm going to save 100,000 in 6 months if I implement, let's say, a customer portal, right? Cost savings whatsoever. And it takes me now 3 months, it takes me 6 months to develop it, so that 6 months I have costs, but I don't actually get anything. If I'm able to do this in 3 months, my opportunity costs are half of the 100K.
Yeah.
Because I could already, after 3 months, untap it and would have this one. So that means it's basically you look into alternatives and what are the costs of doing this. And that also often means what are the costs of not doing it.
Yeah.
And that is why it's very important, because organizations, as said earlier, they often look into, should we do it? What are the costs of doing it? But is it even an option for you to not do it? And if you ask yourself, do we need to be in this market? Do we need to do this in 5 years? If the answer is yes, what is your explanation why you're not doing it now?
Yeah. And what is the smallest step that you can take towards that strategic gain, basically? Create
a proof of concept. And I think that is also a very important point is, I had once a conversation with a former colleague where I had the feeling it was a bit frustrated. We had a meeting together in Düsseldorf, and I said, look, it's everything okay? He said, yeah, you started 2 projects. You got them both approved. I'm discussing here for ages because we want to launch this program and whatsoever. I said the power of no. That's what makes the difference. And he said, what do you mean? I said, you ask for a program. A program means we need to have an owner. We need to have a 5-year strategy. Oh, it needs to be in the budget. We haven't even decided on our digital infrastructure now. So, and I said, look, I basically said we want to do 2 pilots. And after this, and we say, look, it's gonna be it costs this, and it's been done in 3-4 months, whatever. You can still say no after this. But then we have a proof at hand, we have evidence if it works or not, and maybe we even have customers, and then you also have a different negotiation point. So, and I think that's very important nowadays to entitle organizations to also be able to make decisions at a later point.
Yeah.
Because often you kill this, and then talking about opportunity costs, if I have senior people discussing something that, let's let it be 50K for pilot program, discuss that for 3 months, 4 months, and you calculate their hours.
Yeah, that's
or your
even a
opportunity
lot.
costs are quite high. I can tell you
Definitely,
this.
yeah. And it also, I think, one of the biggest challenges organizations face now is that if you want to change something, what is the smallest step that you can actually take towards the first value? You don't have to build the full-scale version from day one. And that is a different in mindset, I think.
Yeah, and also the proof of concept. Like, for example, if you say, for the web shop I mentioned earlier, right? So proof of concept was not, we want to make a turnover of XYZ. Doesn't make any sense.
No.
So, but we said, okay, what's the biggest risk that we have? The biggest risk is that we have costs, but we could already figure out that currently we were already trying to get the materials into the hands of startups and scale-ups, but it involved quite some senior people. So we said, look, it's already cheaper doing the new way, right? But then, what about, how could we actually start this, and what do we want to test? What we want to test is the process.
Yeah.
Can we actually set it up in a way that it runs completely automated? So we actually choose for proof of concept that this is one of the findings.
Yeah.
And then we take, let's let it be 5 customers that we are familiar with and 5 customers that we don't know. And then let's meet again in 6 weeks, 8 weeks, and evaluate what do we need to improve. Can it stay like this? The same also with the infrastructure behind. We actually, because it's all composable, we reused a lot of stuff that we already had in the organization. Of course, there were components where we say 2 years down the road, we're not going to use them anymore.
Yeah.
But they work for now.
But for now, you get movement, you learn something, and you create value. So.
Yeah, and also you need maybe to think sometimes about let's say a transition infrastructure or architecture. So that means, okay, what are the costs of onboarding? What are the costs of offboarding?
Yeah.
If I have a solution that I can easily onboard and offboard, and I have a case where I can save FTE costs whatsoever for 2 years until the final program comes or whatever. That's an entrepreneurial approach.
Yeah.
I just do the calculation, I look at it. If it's worth it, then I go for it.
Yeah.
And
now, we can manage with this.
Exactly.
For this situation. So
and we're completely fine to say goodbye afterwards, but we plan it.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting line of thought. It also makes me think of the lean startup methodology where you test and validate at a smaller scale. Is there a link?
Yeah, of course. There's a lot of, it makes a lot of sense, right? I mean, the lean startup approach. But what needs to be understood is, also if you look into literature, there's a lot of evidence that a lot of corporates especially do not like to work with startups.
No.
Vice versa. And I think the percentage was something between 40 and 60% of the startups and vice versa, the companies do not like to work with them. Because from a corporate perspective, they are too disruptive. They maybe, also they shoot before they ask, same thing. And they're not very structured, and they really try to grab every opportunity. And on the other hand, corporates are seen as very slow, not very flexible. So, and that is where there's sometimes a bit of not only misunderstanding, but it's also difficult to work with each other. So yes, lean startup makes sense, but if you look into a corporate angle, you need to understand the dynamics of a corporate world.
Yeah.
And what
I was also talking a little bit more about the mindset and the philosophy behind lean startup instead of actually lean startups, but the so the experimentation and the value and the
definitely needs to you need to also again, transformation is about culture. You need to empower your people in the organization to come up with these ideas and give them the lobby to also explore it and test it. And I think that's where we can learn a lot about startups. But we also need to get away from this line of thinking that if we don't have a PowerPoint about it, then it doesn't exist. It doesn't make any sense. But I think we need to be more hands-on and explorative. And I think that's what we can really take from startups.
Yeah. And you just mentioned, transformation is about culture. You also have a phrase where you say that's not just about the minimum viable product, but also the minimum viable team.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we tend to focus on the deliverable or the product. And I mean, we're living in a digital world where we know that most of the stuff has been developed before, right? So we change things, and of course with AI, a lot of things pop up. But in the end, what makes a difference in an organization is the people and the culture. So you need someone who are some people that are willing to push it, some people that are sponsors or whatever. But you also need to consider two things. One is I need believers in the organization, and I have always people that say, why should we change this? This is running well.
I want to stick to what we're doing right now.
And there are two stages. One is actually the starting stage, and the other one's later when you want to scale it. So an MVT is basically, if let's say I want to do a web shop project, just as an example, I take someone from logistics, I take someone from finance, I take someone, and I take them and I take them into the team. That doesn't mean they have to be present in all the meetings, but at least to define what is the MVP, what does it need to do, what are the processes in the organizations, what would be the next steps if we scale it, and then later, if it's launched, it's also part of their project.
Yeah.
So and that also makes them proud, and it's not that if I have a distractor, I kind of try to get around him. That doesn't make any sense. Get him in, say, what are your concerns? Okay, this we can address now. Let's address this later on the second stage. And when you want to scale it, all these departments were involved. So it's basically approved. And you don't get this, let's say now a head of logistic, why was I not involved? What's happening?
This won't work.
Exactly. Yeah. It's approved by your people. And you also need to, I know it's always, new concepts, but you also need to prepare for success.
Yeah.
So and then you need to be able to scale, and that you only can do if the right people are involved.
Yeah, prepare for success, but also prepare for your exit. That's what you mentioned just now. Yeah. So what's the alternative? Yeah. How does your approach work? Because it starts with an opportunity scan.
Exactly.
Yeah. What does that mean?
So we have two stages. It depends if sometimes we do a quick scan. So we really do an outside-in perspective of an organization using also the tool Mapogee of one of our partners, where we look into patterns, where we look into research papers, and it draws you already a picture. Then you also include news, and then if you can read between the lines and can connect the right dots, and you see, this company is working on this, they bought a factory. Let's look at the company that they bought, and then you start investigating, and that draws you a very clear picture. Also looking then into annual report of the companies, the share development, and if you take this all together and let's say have a bit of a strategic mind, that gives a very clear picture of an organization, and then you already from an outside-in perspective see things that might not always be too obvious, right? And that is usually where we start a conversation. We do a quick scan with an organization, say, look, this is you. And they're like,
this is you from the outside in.
Okay, first of all, I didn't know that we are that transparent. and secondly, I didn't know that they are doing this and that, right?
Yeah.
And the other one is then a full-scale opportunity scan where we go into the next stage after signing an NDA, because we also look into sales data. We're gonna do interviews with stakeholders to also validate what we find, and then basically we look into interesting opportunities, and that could be anything. Right?
It doesn't have to be digital. That can be anything.
No, but of course it can also be. We also do a lot of stuff in the commercial sector to look into new commercial opportunities, to look into diversity strategy, especially if you want to also improve your share value. You need to also diversify. Let's say nowadays, if you only, let's say you were a supplier for automotive, things are not looking, especially in Germany, not looking that good at the moment.
Nope.
And if you don't diversify, that also has an impact on your share value and your future, right? So, and then we also look into, okay, what can we do? What opportunities are there? And then we start first analyzing them, looking at the impact. Then together with the client, we choose the ones that are most promising or to start with. We do a risk analysis. We do an opportunity rating. So we have our own scoring model to see what is a valid opportunity to go after. And then we basically plan it with them. And we also have a tool where we can actually calculate the contribution of the operations to the company's strategy based on the leading KPIs. And then we basically design these operations. And then we plan with them how to execute them and execute them with the partners. But again, we work as a team with the internal people. It doesn't help them if we do it all externally. We hand it over and we say goodbye. We need to build up the competence in the organization. And I think that's also where we really want to make a difference. We train them on how to do it. We build up intelligence in the organization. We build that process that we have up in the client organization.
And then you become the entrepreneur, basically.
Exactly, and that is also what
How
we
do you
want to
then make
focus
sure?
on.
How do you then make sure that you don't lead the change, or should you lead the change? Is that the better question?
Now we should trigger the change.
Yeah.
We should maybe be the, let's say, the starting point
The
for it, maybe.
Kickstarter?
But there needs to be an ambassador in the organization, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't help if you push something towards management, say you need to do it, and they don't feel comfortable with. I've seen this many times also with commercial teams. We need to do, we need to look into our sales strategy. We need to do this and that, and then it's pushed down on them.
Mm-hmm.
It's stress. They do it. They don't know why they do it. They feel not comfortable with it, and that's doomed to fail.
Yeah.
On the long run, at least, that's doomed to fail. Maybe it has an impact in the first year, but then after 2 years, either customers are not happy, your share of wallet goes down, or the employees are not happy anymore, and they need to understand it, and they need to feel it's the right thing.
Yeah.
So, and it's a challenging part. Again, it's also a lot about company culture, but I think that's a very important turning point.
Yeah. One of our previous guests is Irene Schevers, and she also had a question for you. And that is, how do you keep middle management and higher management connected in this transformation, in a transformation?
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Tim and me had you start your own company. I mean, even though I think we quite experienced in our sectors, why we still have a startup, if you want it like this,
Yeah.
right? And you think about what's our brand positioning, what's our philosophy, what do we want to do, and so on, right? And one of the points was let's say you have a huge corporate building and whatever, and I'm able to build a strategy that maybe even the factory worker in the company understands what the strategy is and what his role is in that. If we can achieve this, then we are a good company.
Yeah.
Because I think often they come all with this, buzzwords, and we need to do this and that. But in the end, what matters is, what are we doing? Are we growing? Are we cutting costs? Why are we doing this? Because our share value is like this, so we need to cut costs. Okay, I get it. I'll help.
Yeah.
And I think that is a very important point. The second one is also, I think there's often a distangle between the employees and middle management and higher management in terms of what is my contribution. So, and what we have very often, and I think also, as Trim, you probably also have been confronted with what I call monster programs.
Yep.
So, let's just change our entire ERP system, or let's build up this huge platform for the next 3 years. And then, if we finish in 3 years, this will be the return. So there's a number of something that's in the future.
Yeah.
But instead of doing this, you should think in, I call it innovation cycles.
Yeah.
So
Incremental
you might call it
steps.
sprints. I
Yeah.
call it innovation
Yeah,
cycles.
fine. Yeah.
Because it's like, okay, if I only do now this little part, I maybe not have the 100K cost savings, but already have 5K.
Yeah.
And then for each step to see what is actually the return of every step that I do. And if you then turn it around and you enable your organization to plan that way, that means that even a quality department, where it's maybe not the first one on the radar of a transformation, because always people look at sales, right? Or sales supporting activities. They can basically say, guys, we have fewer opportunity costs. We can implement that system. We free up time. We can have better customer service whatsoever. And these are the things that we want to do step by step. And these are the individual returns.
Yeah.
So then you're planning your budget the other way around.
Yeah.
You're coming from the return that you bring and then say what you need for it.
Yeah.
And that is, you basically empower them to be part of it and to steer the transformation.
Yeah, one of the things that pops in my mind is also a total value of ownership sometimes. So that doesn't necessarily relate to the innovation cycles and the smaller steps, but it does relate to the value that you're trying to create with each different step. Instead of focusing on the costs, but what are you trying to achieve and gain in every step? That's not only financial, it's also about what you can gain.
Yeah, and also links to what are your leading KPIs in the company, right? I'm not a fan of we have this KPI dashboard at 3 pages. It doesn't make any sense. In the end, your organization has typically 8 to 10 really important KPIs, right?
Yeah.
And no matter what you do, if you're not able to make a link from your work on supporting one of these KPIs,
what's the relevance then?
Yeah, and is it meaningful? Is it meaningful for you? Do you feel you do the right thing? You just do your job and finish at 5, right?
Yeah.
And I think that is what is the value that's being created. And I would not make it too scientific. But one of the things is to say, building a case for change, building a case for transformation, looking into opportunity cost, for example. Why should I touch the opportunity? For example, quality department. Yeah, do you know what your quality manager costs, what these people cost? They do a lot of non-value added things.
Yeah.
Things that could be automated, so they have more time for this. It's the same with salespeople.
Yeah.
If you come with digitalization, like, I'm going to lose my job. No, I'm pretty sure you did not sign up for the job to say, by the way, job description, 30 days of holidays, you need to send data sheets.
What's the mission?
You need to send price lists. Oh yeah, I'm signed up for that. No,
Yes.
you want to be at the customer. You want to talk to the customers.
Yeah.
And reducing the costs of serving, for example, the opportunity costs in that perspective, doesn't mean that it basically entitles them to do their job.
Yeah, I really like it also makes me think of the NASA story back in the 60s when they were trying to put someone on the moon, and there were two different departments running all calculations on how to make that rocket get to the moon. That was also the time that they introduced the IBM supercomputer, and the accounting teams, or the teams that were doing the numbers and running the numbers, one of the teams said, yeah, we just need to work faster, get out more, and fine. The other team said, the leader there said, I want to learn how to work with that computer, because once it's put together, my job will definitely change. So I need to be able to do that instead of still the same mission, but a very different way of adding to that mission and helping them.
Yeah, especially the supercomputer is now AI.
Yeah.
And I know, I had a lot of opinions on it, and it will obviously kill some jobs. I mean, it's been the same with whatever developments or bigger developments have been there in the past. Jobs will be killed, new jobs will be created, right? And it just goes faster now. But on the other hand, I think a lot of jobs where people are maybe now afraid or whatever, they will just focus on what's essential. They will focus more on the value rather than operational things that do not require any of their expertise.
Yeah.
So, and I think that's we often look into a job and then say, hey, same also maybe as an example of inside sales. So we have an inside salesperson. Yeah, do we need that many inside sales, especially if you want to grow your business? You also need to grow your headcount if you have a traditional way of working. That way you can entitle them to deliver much more and also change the job.
Yeah.
Why don't you become for, let's say, tail customers, you take a junior salesperson, say, you are now an online account manager. You just, instead of having 10 accounts, you now manage 100 online accounts.
Yeah.
The job needs to be more flexible, and you need to change the jobs in your organization and not get rid of the jobs.
What does that ask of you as a human and a professional? Because that also requires us to be more flexible, I think, but
explorative. You need to be explorative. You need to try it, and you need to say, look, this is happening. It could also be, let's try it for 6 months and see where it takes us, or your workload reduces here. Let's take some of your hours and put you on some special project, or let's try something new out. Again, it's all coming back to the same thing. You need to embrace a culture of exploring new stuff in your organization.
And then also accepting failure.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah. It also brings back a story, ultra run story. I went to a training camp with Karel Sabbe. Do you know Karel Sabbe?
No.
One of the top 5 ultra runners in the world. And I thought, let's do a training camp with him. Nice. And he did a lot of it was a life-changing weekend for me, because I learned so much about failure as well, and about what to do and how to manage that. One of the assignments he gave us was, let's just walk through a very dense forest and learn your body needs to learn what it feels like to crash into a tree. And I was like, what are we doing? And we also had to go through a very steep kind of hole, basically, that we had to run through. And the assignment was learn how to fall. What? That's a different mindset that I took home from that weekend. And I thought, oh yeah, because after a fall, you just get up. And I have a photo of me head first in that ditch with a big smile.
Yeah, and then I think that's a very good one. Yeah. I've run into trees. Maybe you imagine it to be a bit different, but I think that's a good point. I also read the one of the books of David Goggins. I think what I know it's still a bit American, whatever, you know, but I think quite some achievements. What I found very interesting is that the scenarios he plans. I got an injury now, so. And it's, of course, mindset, I'm not giving up, but it's also about, okay, I do have a plan on how to recover until the next race.
Yeah.
And I think also as a company, to go back to this one, is like to say, we have now this one, it could fail, it could fail, it could
fail.
succeed, but it could also succeed a little, very much, it could fail a little, it could fail totally, and that you go into scenario planning.
Yeah.
Because then you also say, okay, now we hit that point that we projected. What do we do? Oh, we have here already listed some activities. And if you
Again,
plan
alternatives.
this, exactly. And if you plan this, the risk is just a perception, right? Because what is the risk if I can actually mitigate it?
Mm-hmm.
So if I have plans to do it, it becomes a strategy. It's not a risk anymore. And I think that is also...
Risk is just a perception because you can plan for mitigations.
Exactly. If you plan in what can go wrong, it's actually a strategy, right? You know what I mean from a mindset perspective. Yeah. Because the risk is often seen with an unexpected result.
Yeah.
And if you have all the results expected, you can plan it and can decide if it's worth it or not.
Yeah.
And if you can live with the negative outcome.
How does that relate to resilience then? Because there's adaptability, resilience, but there's two.
Yeah, resilience is I think in corporates, resilience is more to, being eager to push things again and again, and also to live with negative feedback and whatever. But if an organization is able to, or open to change, and has it in their culture, you actually don't need that much resilience. And you only need the resilience if your organization is not open for that, and not open to fail, because then you feel you need to justify yourself. But if you say, this is the plan, this we could achieve, I think these are the reasons why we should do it, and I think this is the risk of not doing it. Should we go for it? I planned 4 scenarios. They all could happen. Can we live with each of them?
Yeah.
And if the answer is yes, then you don't need to be resilient. I think then you take your learnings from it. And what also is very important, but people often do not do, is something went wrong, we put it in the basement. We're not going to talk about it. You don't have
put
to
it under the carpet.
You don't have to do an extensive research about it or whatsoever, but at least you need to talk about it and see, why did it fail? Because again, also what we said earlier, sometimes also new projects fail because the wrong proof of concept is being chosen. Because management wants to, for example, how much is the turnover? What's this? At this stage, we're not proving the turnover.
Yeah.
We're proving something completely else. And if the proof of concept is not chosen wisely, you might even be doomed to fail in the beginning already, because you're actually trying to prove something which is not your target.
How do you then define the right proof of concept? What are the...
Yeah, I think the purpose is very important of what you're doing.
What are you trying to learn and to achieve?
And also to be reasonable.
But what's reasonable to you might sound unreasonable to me.
Yeah, but for many, they kind of, you can overpromise and underdeliver, or vice versa. And often you pitch things that maybe are too optimistic or positive. Because you want to get the buy-in from the management.
Yeah.
And my experience with this, doing this now for years, is to be very straightforward. This is what we want to prove.
Open.
This is why we should be doing it. But I'm very open to you. This is the budget that we need. This is what we might have to push afterwards into the program. But it could also happen that this is the outcome. And usually management's completely open for this because it's plannable. And I think one best example is, and then also looking into that's more like goals, right? Mm-hmm. So sometimes goals are being chosen that from a logistic department and from a sales department, which are controversial.
Yeah.
So and you see a conflict there, and then you basically see that, what do we actually want to do? And you need to consider also the individual agendas of people, what's on their mind, and then together come to a conclusion. What do we want to achieve, rather than trying to meet someone's individual agenda to actually convince him, right? So I think that's often there's a mismatch, simply.
Yeah. So be realistic and don't fear the tough discussions. Is that
exactly? If you cannot justify what you're doing, then it's probably not worth doing it.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you have a piece of advice that you want to give to our listeners on where to start, how to start?
I would maybe sometimes look at daily things, that you do, maybe some that are pain, or some that you don't like to do, or where you think they don't add value, but it's the way it is. And then just think about, what could we do? Just dig a little deeper and think, why is it that way? Why do we even do it that way?
Yeah.
Is there not any way that I can get rid of this? And what would I do if I would free up that time? What could I do if I would not be doing 20% of my time, this and that? What would I be able to achieve and contribute to the organization? And if you put this on paper, you have almost a business case ready.
Yeah. What's the art of storytelling in this, and the meaning of storytelling in this?
It's just pretty pragmatic, I guess, right?
Yeah.
So it's like I said, again, we need to start challenge status quo. And it sounds like a nice phrase or whatever, but we very often do things and we don't ask why are we doing this, right?
Yeah.
The same as like, who on earth decided that a strategy needs to be on PowerPoint slides? You know what I mean? Because in organizations, it's like, I have an idea. Yeah, can you prepare a slide deck?
Yeah.
No, let's maybe have a whiteboard session, jointly think about, is there potential before we put anything on slides? But we're creating work that doesn't add any value.
Yeah.
And you also create a huge threshold with all the communication back and forth and things being created, which are opportunity costs.
Yeah.
Let's have a meeting, let's have a brainstorming, embrace people to come up with ideas in each department. It doesn't matter what department, and then see how can we test these things with a small risk, and be able to also say, this is not in, this is in, and then I have something, I call it always the engineering, the engineer disease. It's basically
the engineer disease.
It sounds, in German it sounds, even you don't believe in German, it sounds more friendly.
Friendlier in German. That's the kind of impossible. What's the engineering disease?
It's basically I want to prepare for every case, and then I think if you are in an MVP stage or a pilot program, you need to be able to say, look, this is a test. The back end is ugly. We have components that we not use. At least the front end for customers is good. It seems automated, but is semi-automated. Whatever, it's fine, right? Because you also don't want to create a huge threshold later to justify against. And the engineering problem is that engineers are very about details, which is super good to also challenge your idea. But if it comes to a pilot program, it's sometimes. I had programs where I said, look, this is finished. Let's go live. No, I had this case the other week, or we have this and that. I have
this outlier, this exception.
have that one customer, and then they want to make it fit for 100%, while it was already a fit for 95%.
Yeah.
But they want to get 100, and then they make it miserable for the other 95.
Yeah.
Because you have all these buttons, you have all these scenarios, you have all these cases, and that is a challenging one. Looking into pilot programs and starting things. Where, again, if you have an MVT, you get these people on board and you say, I see you, but if you have to choose from these 10 things, which do you think is really priority? If you have to choose.
Yeah.
Because you have only this time and this amount of budget. And then you say, okay, we put it into phase 2. You already plan, again, for success.
We hear you.
And you say, let's first prove it, and then we hear your wishes, and we do it in the next steps.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you, Martin. I think it was an awesome conversation about challenging the status quo.
And running.
And asking what, and running. And asking why and why not.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks as well for inviting me. Yeah.
Stay connected to the Evolving Digital Podcast.